Arrow Video UK has been releasing these Sergio Leone directed spaghetti westerns that most of us know as the Man with No Name trilogy or the Dollar Trilogy. They've been releasing these fairly impressive rigid boxes of these films, like a fistful of dollars and for a few dollars more. Now, this is the first two films in the trilogy, and you can check out it. I've done reviews on both of these releases. Today we're going to talk about the third and final of these films, even though after this they did release another one called Once Upon a Time in the West, which I've also done a review on. But this one does not have Clint Eastwood in it, but he was offered the part that Charles Bronson plays in it. This Once Upon a Time in the West is a really good spaghetti western, but most people are going to consider the one we're talking about today to be the best spaghetti western, and certainly the best in the trilogy, even though some people may consider this one to be the best. And what we're going to talk about today is this new 4K UHD release of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And we're going to take a look at this amazing thick rigid slip box in this video. We're going to open this up. I'm going to show you the contents in here. We're going to talk about this 4K UHD transfer. And if you would do me a favor, if you haven't done so already, if you would like this video, I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. And as you can see, I'm an avid physical media movie collector. And also, I've been doing review videos on this channel for a little over a year now. And you can check out all the review videos I've done before this. And there's a pretty good bit of them. You can check those out on my channel. And there's also, I've had this channel for over 18 years. And there's a lot of other content on here. This being the third in the trilogy, I think that this, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, to me, is the most streamlined with the plot. There is a MacGuffin in here, some buried gold that these characters, they find out about, and this takes place during the American Civil War, and they find out about this buried gold that all three of the characters are trying to find. You have that MacGuffin that kind of drives the story and everything that happens in the film. Now you have, the title is called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So let's start with the good. Now these titles aren't, a lot of this is a grab for attention. Now that to me, that title just really grabs your attention. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It always, like, I remember hearing that even before I ever saw the film when I was like a kid or whatnot. And I was like, that sounds kind of cool. That's a cool name. But Clint Eastwood's character Blondie in the film isn't necessarily good. He's got a different kind of type of moral code. It's a cowboy code that is these are spaghetti westerns are revisionist westerns, different than the ones before that, which would, like John Wayne and things of that nature, where a lot of those kind of glamorized the American West. These definitely don't. Clint Eastwood's character is named Blondie. He doesn't really have a name. His nickname is Blondie, but I'm not sure exactly what that means since he doesn't have blonde hair. He has lighter hair than any of the other characters, and maybe that could be it, or maybe Blondie is like kind of like a slang term for like a white person, like kind of like gringo. But he's not necessarily good. First time you see him, in fact. Like the Tuco character, also considered, I guess, the ugly character, which we'll talk about that in just a moment. But when he has like three people who are trying to get him, they've caught him and they're trying to bring him to a jail to get a reward money for him. Like Clint Eastwood's character shows up and just shoots all three of those men dead, and then he takes him for himself to go get the reward money. He's a bounty hunter. But then him and Tuco come up with this kind of scheme where he brings him back, collects the reward money, and then when they go to hang him, he shoots the noose, and then they both escape, and then they divide the reward money. And so they kind of come up with that scheme. So they're con men. Even they're going to call him good, but he's better than the other three characters. Now here's what they all three look like. This is a Kino Lorber release. Now I'm going to talk about this release in comparison to this. This is also a 4K UHD release, but I'm going to compare these two releases. I've also got two other previous releases of this. I've got this Man with No Name trilogy on DVD, and I've also got this Blu-ray. And this is by far the best of it. But back to the characters. The ugly character played by Eli Wallach. I wonder how he felt about being called the ugly. He may have enjoyed the celebrity behind this, but I bet you that this was originally called something else, and then they came up with that name later because he's not pretty. I'm not saying but he's not. I wouldn't call him ugly. They often call him rat face. I could see that resemblance of maybe a little bit of a rat face, but the character is a he's really good shot, and he's also there, and he's like schemes with Clint Eastwood's character on this plot, and then later on, Clint Eastwood's character actually betrays him at one point because I think he thinks that he's going to betray him first, and at one point he takes all the money and runs, and then he comes after him and captures him, and then he forces him to walk through the desert until his face is all jacked up and things of that nature. But as far as the third character, the bad character named Angel Eyes, played by Lee Van Cleef. Now, Lee Van Cleef played a completely different character in For a Few Dollars More. His character was more of a protagonist, kind of good character in this film. He's a very sadistic character. They call him Bad. He does most of the bad stuff he does is early in the film and in the middle. But this character is not. He's in it a lot less than the other two characters because it's really a lot of it is a buddy film, just like this one is a buddy film. I mean, just like the second one's a buddy film as well between Clint Eastwood's character and Lee Van Cleef's character. This one here is a buddy film between Tuco and Blondie. Angel Eyes is kind of the villain. He's a third one who's also trying to get the money. Who is more ruthless and more relentless on it. He's definitely a very dangerous character. As you see, there's an earlier scene where he comes into a guy's house and he's trying to find some information from him, and he's been paid to kill this guy. He has definitely has a moral code, and this scene is very similar to the opening scene of was it Inglorious Bastards by Quentin Tarantino, where he sits down and he has this very tense conversation with this guy. The guy knows he's going to kill him, and then he ends up the other guy draws first and he shoots him. The guy pays him some money before he kills him, so he takes the money. The guy pays him, and he goes to the guy who paid him to kill the first guy, and then he tells him the information he was paid to tell him, and then he kills him since the other guy paid him to kill him. So he's kind of got that type of weird moral code, and we don't see him for a long time in the movie until near the middle of it. All of a sudden, he shows back up in a really awesome scene. Now there is an extended version, and there is this the international version, which is I think the version that most of us have seen, even though it's been played on TV a lot. Now there is an extra scene or two between Angel Eyes character before because there is a long time. They're not really important, but it is kind of cool to see him a little bit. But it kind of like takes away from a little bit from the reveal from when we see him like halfway through the film again, and he becomes more important to the story. So let's go ahead and take a look at this release. Now I'm questioning myself: is this going to be the last time I'm going to buy this movie? I think it might be, because even if they have like a U.S. release of this from Arrow, which right now Kino Lorber owns the rights here. Even if they have a U.S. release, I'm probably not going to buy it again because this is a very impressive release. Now, the drawback, if you don't have a region-free player, you're not going to be able to play the Blu-ray disc in here, the third and I think fourth disc. There's 4 discs here that have a lot of extras on them. And unfortunately, I don't have one right now, but I may eventually get one and be able to take a look at those extras. Though some of them may be on this Kino Lorber release. Let's see if I can get this open. It's a little challenging getting these out of here. But there we go. All right. So here's the inside cover here, which is it's the same, really the same as the others. This one has it's just a little more vibrant with the colors. It's a little more dull. Same design. On the back we have Angel Eyes and Tuco here, and then there's Blondie in the back. On the inside we got, let's see, we have another disc, we have the release, we have a poster, and we have a booklet. So we're going to take a look at this release first. On the outside cover, we have our 3 main characters. There's a reversible here. Now, this is the original poster for the film, which that's fairly iconic looking to me. I think that really screams the 70s there. On the inside, we have a little... There's an advertisement for an upcoming Arrow release called the Oily Maniac that I haven't heard of. And now this one this is a 4K UHD disc, but this has the international cut on it, which is probably the one that if you've seen it on physical release, this is probably the one you're more familiar with. I think it runs about 2 hours and 40 minutes. On the inside here, this is another 4K release. This one has the extended cut, which adds about 20-something additional minutes. We'll talk about in just a few minutes to it. It makes it about... there's 2 options here. There's a 2 hours and 55-minute version, and there's a 3-hour version. This is a Blu-ray with extras on it, and this is another Blu-ray with extras on it. It says Sad Hill Unearthed, and unearthed. Yeah, just Sad Hill Unearthed is what it is. And I was reading a little bit about that, and this one has a documentary on it, which talks about rebuilding the cemetery set from the end of the film. So I can't play these. I don't have a player to play this one or this one as of today's date. So let's take a look at the booklet. We have the same design that's on the insert of the disc. And here we have several essays. It has a list of cast and the crew, and then it has several essays throughout this. And at the back of it, it has about the presentation we're going to read a little bit about. Now, I do want to show you a few of the pictures. Now, here's Clint Eastwood's character with a cannon. This movie does take place during the American Civil War, which is makes it very interesting seeing these Western characters interacting with these battles in some instances, or they get mixed up with these soldiers in some of the scenes. There's Clint Eastwood with a noose. So it's like it's very like jarring in some of those scenes where they come across that. And there's a very awesome set piece near the end where there's a bridge in their way, kind of like the bridge on the River Kwai, but they have an obstacle of this bridge that these two, the Confederate and the Union soldiers are fighting over this bridge, and then they kind of briefly get involved with that bridge part. And that's a fairly memorable part of the film, I think, and it really stands out to me. There's a lot of pictures throughout this book. It's a fairly impressive bound book with like a lot of essays in it. Very looks to be very well written. So let's go ahead and read about the presentation and the 4K transfer. And I got to tell you, there's been a lot of work done to this film. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly has been exclusively restored by Arrow Films and is presented in its original aspect ratio of 2:35:1, which is extra wide screen, in both its international and extended cuts. The soundtrack is presented in restored English mono, as well as remixed English 5.1 audio for both versions. The original 35mm 2-perf Technoscope camera negative was scanned and restored in 4K 16-bit resolution at... Now, I'm not going to try to pronounce this because it would just be a disaster. I'm going to put the words right here on the screen, and that's what it says. And that is the same place that restored the Kino Lorber release that has gotten a lot of complaints. I believe that they did all the initial restoration work on this before Arrow was involved with it. Now, what happened after that is as follows. The film was further restored and color graded in SDR, HDR10, and Dolby Vision at Silver Salt Restoration, London. And I think that's where they really fine-tuned this, and it looks a lot better than the Kino Lorber release, which a lot of people, including myself, in some scenes was fairly disappointing. Additional English picture and audio materials were made available from Amazon/MGM Studios. Portions of an original 35mm exhibition print were scanned in 4K by another word I'm not going to try to pronounce. This is in Rome, for sequences missing from the original negative. A 35mm Inhibition Technicolor print was sourced from the Cinema Museum London for color reference, and that's where they used the color reference for the grading, which they've done a lot of work on, and it looks really good. Additional film and video references were supplied from the collections of Benji Heron and Jordan Krug. Arrow Video wishes to thank all of them. So they went to a lot of work to make this right, and they've done a really good job with the 4K presentation. And I think that's what most people care the most about, even though this is a very impressive set, the way that it looks, as all the stuff I just showed you. One thing I didn't show you is this poster. It's a double-sided poster. The front we have the original poster. On the back we got the new artwork that's on the insert. So let's talk about that extended version really quick, and a few scenes I noticed that were not in the international cut. One is there's a scene where Tuco's by himself at one point before he goes to get revenge on Blondie, and he finds like a dead chicken he's about to boil, and he sits there and he talks to the chicken. You can see why that scene was cut. It does kind of like get into this character's head a little bit. He just has a monologue. He talks to the chicken, eventually boils it. Now there is about 20 extra minutes here, and there's two versions. The other version there's 2 hours and 55 minute one, and then the 3 hour one. Now the 3 hour one, there's extra 5 minutes, or there's a torture scene in the middle where Angel Eyes tortures Tuco for a really long extended time, which even in the international cut, I thought it was a bit much. But here you got like 5 extra minutes of this guy getting tortured, and there's another scene I noticed where Angel Eyes, aka the Bad, comes up upon this Confederate Civil War regiment, and he's trying to get information from them about, because he knows that this gold, like someone in the Confederacy, I think his name is Ben Foster, has the gold, and he's trying to locate him. He questions a guy who's got a bunch of corn cobs, and he's throwing it into a boiling pot, and so that scene kind of it kind of shows you what he's doing in between, when you see him earlier on and then later on, where you don't see him for a long time, and he ends up being part of this regiment. But the scene wasn't necessarily needed, because it actually kind of breaks up the flow of the story, putting it in there. A third scene I noticed near the end is another scene where Clint Eastwood's character Blondie briefly teams up with Angel Eyes, and there's more scenes. There's a one scene between them it's kind of like it's kind of a cool scene. It's not like a long scene, but it's a scene that they cut for this, because there's not like a lot of scenes between those characters. It's just kind of like they team up briefly, and then they get separated. But there's a brief scene between them, and then where Clint Eastwood notices that he's not really by himself, and he's got all his men with him, which it kind of fills in the blanks by itself without having that scene in the film. Even though it wasn't kind of cool just to see another scene between Eastwood and Lee Van Cleef. So as far as the way that this looks, I think that even though this restoration, they've done a lot of work on it, there's still some scenes that aren't ever going to look like pristine, just because of the way it was shot. And it's a really, especially some of the exterior, really bright desert scenes, they're just never going to look like terrific. They look really good in the movie, better than they've ever looked, and probably better than they're ever going to look. But good enough anyway. But you can see the difference, though, if you take a look at one of the most specific scenes, and this happens several times. It's just that sometimes their skin tones are a lot redder in this. Like when they come up and they find the guy with the eye patch, he knows about the gold, and Tuco's talking to him. If you look at the skin tones in that scene compared to the restoration, it's just like really red, and it looks very unnatural in the Kino Lorber release. Here it looks fairly natural. Now they are out in this desert, so there is kind of going to be a red anyway, because the way the sun reflects off of the red sand and things of that nature. So it's going to look, this red dust, it's going to look red anyway. Just it looks like a very unnatural, and doesn't look right. It just looks like kind of weird, I guess. It's not even weird, it's not the right word, but it doesn't look like it really would look, and it looks a lot closer here in this new restoration. All the scenes that I think look really bad in the Kino Lorber release have been addressed here, and they look significantly cleaner. This was shot on film, 35mm film. It was shot in extreme conditions, and so there is a lot of film grain in here. It looks very organic, and it looks fairly aesthetically pleasing for the film. It doesn't really just detract from it. As far as like a lot of times there are a lot of extreme close-ups, and one of the first shots is a extreme close-up of a guy just steps in front of the camera, and you see his face like extremely close, and you can see so much extra detail in this 4K transfer than you could before in the previous releases. In general, I think the sharpness and the clarity looks very accurate. It looks very sharp throughout, and they like I was reading to you about before, with all the stuff that they did to this transfer, is quite impressive what they've done. Also, unlike the Kino Lorber release, this does have HDR grading on it and Dolby Vision, and that looks very impressive. It really brings out a lot more colors especially in the skin tones, but throughout you see a lot more, and the black levels are very satisfactory as well. You don't see a lot of noise in the black darker areas. Now most of this does take place in brighter areas, but in general I think this is a really great 4K transfer of this film. Now let's go ahead and rate the movie and the release. I'm going to rate this film The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly on a scale from 1 to 5. 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. I'm going to give the film 4.5 stars, leaning towards a 5. I really think this movie is fantastic. I've seen it lots of times, and every time I watch it, I have a greater appreciation for it. Now, as far as what Arrow has delivered here, I'm also going to give them a 4.5-star rating. I think that they've done terrific work with this release. I think they did really terrific work with all three of these releases from it is Arrow Video UK. Maybe they'll eventually get the rights and have it released here in the States. So if you these may be hard to get. I don't know. I know at some point there were some shortages in them, but you can order this from sites like Diabolique.com or OrbitDVD.com if they have stock, or you can go directly to the Arrow UK site and order it from them. There's some oddness with the shipping and all that. It ends up costing a little bit more. It's better if you can get it through one of the other sites, or I think Grindhouse Releasing may have it as well. You're going to end up paying less money that way. Anyway, let me know what you think about this release, and if you've seen the release, even the movie, let me know what you think about the film. I think the film is a lot of fun. And if you would do me a favor, if you haven't done so already, if you would subscribe to my channel. And there's also, if you click this box right here, it's gonna bring you to one of these other films, like for a few dollars more. You can see my review of that film if you click on that box. I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. Thanks for watching.